Hi, this is Kendra from Pencil and Pigment, and today is my no-buy art supply in-depth topic. And today I really wanted to talk about back to school supplies. Now I know here in North America, in the stores, they have been for sale for about a month now, so this video can be kind of late and I apologize for that. But I wanted to talk about some tips and tricks, some things that, because my husband and I have both done college and things years ago, that we ran into that may be kind of unique or maybe give you ideas. All of this is to help you in some way, keep to a budget, keep to your no-buy, and not be tempted. So the first thing would be to ask yourself some questions. Ask yourself how you're feeling. The amount of psychology in this no-buy is just sort of blowing me away, but how you're feeling directly impacts everything you do in the day. And when you ask yourself how you're feeling, don't just sort of mull it around in your head. Say it out loud. You need to hear yourself say it because that is a completely different experience. So hear yourself say, I am feeling overwhelmed and I am not happy about this, for example. And therefore, when I am in this mood, and I know when I'm in this mood, I have a tendency to want to pick up a couple items to cheer myself up that look like fun or make me laugh or whatever the case may be. So in this instance, that would not be the day to go shopping. You would want to wait till you are perfectly content and happy, and that way you do not feel tempted to buy anything, or vice versa. So if you are in a good mood and that's when you tend to browse and shop, you would not want to go shopping. Figure it as the equivalent of not wanting to go grocery shopping when you are hungry because you tend to buy more. It's a lot like that. So in this instance, ask yourself, feel your feelings, understand when you are in a shopping mood, and understand when that's not the best time to go shopping. Even if it's when you have the time to, try and figure out as best as possible. I know it's very, very difficult sometimes to create and carve out a window for a day that would be a better day to shop. Now, the other thing is if you tend to browse more in person or you tend to browse more online, it might be better to do the opposite. I know within safety COVID guidelines, sometimes it's not physically possible. A lot of college bookstores are in person only, especially with textbooks, and so that becomes increasingly difficult. I would say for that specifically, you're going to have to go in and check your mood before making that type of trip and make a list. You want to make a very specific list. You want your list to be things you have used for school that have been successful. Now, if this is your first year in college or high school and you don't know what you prefer to take notes on, that's okay. Maybe hold off and buy the smallest amount of office supplies for that as possible. Because what I mean is in some classrooms within college specifically, they're more like auditoriums and the desks are minuscule. They are very, very tiny. And having a huge binder, like open and flipped out, you're gonna end up in the person's lap next to you. And I'm pretty sure that's not how you want to introduce yourself. And having a 3-ring binder, a spiral notepad where you can open that and make sure you only take up the space of your desk because you're constantly just flipping it around, might be the best solution for really, really tiny desks and things like that. The other thing is to see if your school has its own sort of used library where you can borrow things from. Our department did, because our department, the design department, there were furniture designers and there were textile designers and there was display cases and stuff. So there was constantly things we can borrow. Sometimes teachers, if they are requiring, okay, here's the deal with textbooks. Some things sometimes are required and some things are optional. Try and contact your teacher beforehand if you can, or a student who's previously taken the course before if you can, and see what they used the most of, and what would be better just to borrow from the library, the school library. Sometimes teachers, I took a class that had so many different reading excerpts that everything was available in multiple copies at the library because he knew there was no way anybody could purchase all that stuff. Like, it was too much. Even he knew. So sometimes teachers know this about themselves and do that. Sometimes they don't. When taking computer classes and courses, look and see what sort of tips and tricks and tutorials are already available online. I took a couple computer design classes where the textbooks became obsolete within 6 months. So that wasn't a good use of my dollar. Now, for folks that are in other majors, my husband took all science classes, and he and I did a very strange thing. So we went on Bookfinder, because here's what happens sometimes, and this is not a hard, fast rule, but sometimes this is a reality, is publishers will change, 5 to 10 words in a textbook and come out with a newer edition, and the teachers, don't have the time to compare page by page, and they'll just recommend the newest edition. And the newest edition will cost a fortune more, and sometimes this happens. So my husband's textbooks for science were insane. They were, $300 a piece. And so we went online and we found versions of these books that were printed not for the United States. They were printed for the UK. Because the science classes were already in the metric system, that wasn't a problem. You get to these sort of advanced chemistries and things and everything goes metric. So that was a non-issue. It was just, kind of some spelling, some extra vowels in some words, because Oxford English is a little different than, Webster's English for some of that. And it was cheaper to buy one of those books for $50 than to buy one in the bookstore for $300 and try and sell it back. And that is how we kept on budget. Now, if you are taking art supplies or art classes and they are requiring art supplies, look and see what you already have. Make an inventory of all the art supplies you own and check and see if the things you have could be used for that class. Now, for example, I took a color theory class in college, and the teacher was requiring acrylic paints. Now, watercolors would not have worked for that class because of the type of paper we were using, and we were going through so much paper. It wasn't sized. But if you, let's say, have a huge amount of gouache could have worked if I would ask the teacher first. There are some things you can do to kind of save money. And again, you want to keep a list. You don't want to deviate from that list. You only want to get what's required. And sometimes it can be really, really tempting, like for things like drafting where you have to buy rolls of vellum. Only buy one roll, because odds are pretty good somebody's going to drop that class and you can buy their partially used roll at half off and they've only used, one sheet or the equivalent of one sheet. So there can be things, sometimes teachers have extra in the classroom, like teachers know when art supplies are a fortune or you're going to need a ton of something. And sometimes teachers have extra that you can borrow from them, buy off of them, whatever. Really, really work with people, ask people, talk to previous students of these classes, see what they really used, what they didn't use. If they have leftover things, you can buy from them. I took an intro to drafting that required a whole special toolkit, and I used literally everything up except the T-square. So, and the T-square is my only sort of memento excuse me, from college. So I kind of kept that because I thought that was kind of funny to keep a T-square, and I use it. So there's that. But there are many things you can do. What you don't want to do is sort of get in that browsing mode and see all the things that are available just kind of hanging around, those rulers. I mean, seriously, I get that sometimes rulers are 50 cents, but do you really need a plastic ruler? Do you already own rulers? Just buying things to buy them because they're on sale is still spending money and still a huge temptation, and that's kind of why these stores offer it up that way. So these are some of my tips and tricks. If you have additional ones that maybe are for your country, like specifically, or to specific age or grade levels, please put them in the comment section down below so we can help each other and make sure that these students that are trying to go to school during a pandemic have it, you know, have something a little bit easier. I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope this helps, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.